July 27th, 2021, Atlanta, Georgia. It was a warm July night in Midtown, an area known for its rainbow crosswalks, lively bars, and sense of safety for those who lived there. A woman was taking her usual late-night walk with her dog, but they would never make it home. By morning, the city woke to the brutal scene of a beloved woman viciously stabbed and mutilated, her loyal pit bull lying dead nearby. 4 years later, there are still no arrests, no named suspects, and no justice. Was it a hate crime, the work of a serial killer, or someone who knew the victim and wanted to humiliate her even in death? This is Katie, Janness, and Bowie, Midnight in Piedmont Park. Hey, y'all, I'm Chris Calvert.
And I'm her husband, Rob Potto. Welcome to Hitch to Homicide.
For better or worse.
Till death do us part.
Welcome back, everybody.
Yes, welcome. And for our friends all the way over there in Turkey.
And we were actually talking about Turkey yesterday.
Yes, we were. Huskaldin.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We were talking about vacationing in Greece and then hopping over to Turkey.
Yeah.
But we've decided to go a different way. We'll tell you about our vacation, our planned vacation later. Nobody needs it. Nobody cares about that.
Yeah, we never get to take a vacation. So
we don't.
It's a long coming.
Yeah, we're excited. But wherever you are listening, be sure to subscribe to Hitch to Homicide, then like, rate, and review the podcast so others who like true crime can find us. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button below.
Yes.
If you want true crime with us all the time, 24/7, please join our closed Facebook group, the In-Laws and Outlaws. Go to Facebook and type in H2H, In-Laws and Outlaws, answer a couple questions. You are in. Go join.
They're a lot of fun.
We love those people.
Yep.
I post photos and other information in there as well. They're a great group of true crime, wacky folks.
Yeah, every once in a while I'll get a bless your heart from one of them, and they're usually great.
They do a good job. They keep us on our toes.
Yeah.
They keep each other on their toes.
Yeah. And if you put a bless your heart in there, I will give you a shout out.
Well, it's better to fill out the form, and then it's on a list.
Yeah.
Then it makes it on an Excel spreadsheet, which neither one of us really use.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can find us on Instagram at Hitch to Homicide or on X at H2H_podcast. And we have a Buy Me a Coffee link if you want to send Rob some coffee.
Please do.
He drinks it every single episode, and you can find that link in our show notes as well.
It's the nectar of the gods.
You can also send us a text. The link to that is at the top of the show notes where it says, send Chris and Rob a text.
Please do.
This case, speaking of, was actually suggested, I believe, inside the In-Laws and Outlaws. And again, when they come that way, I try to remember who suggested it. But if it's not in the suggest a case form on the website, I'm notorious for writing it down, but not the suggestor, the person who suggested it.
Yeah.
So if it's you, chime in and let us all know.
Yep.
Before we get started, let me thank some sources. Crime Stories with Nancy Grace, True Crime Garage, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Fox 5 Atlanta, Find a Grave, People Magazine, WSB-TV, BuzzFeed, 11 Alive, Unresolved, and Reddit. And let me tell you, there are lots of people who have theories on Reddit about this unsolved case.
Amateur sleuths.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, it's true.
I do want to say before we get started, this is a particularly brutal murder, and our victim's dog is also murdered right alongside her, if you didn't catch that from the opening. So if you need to tap out now, I understand.
Okay, well, I'll see you later.
You have to stay. You're required. But anybody else, I understand. But before we get into this, you've been warned.
All right. Well, you ready?
I am.
Let's do it.
Catherine Lynette Janness, who went by Katie, was born on September 4th, 1980. She grew up in Detroit, Michigan, but in 2006, at the age of 26, Katie moved to Atlanta, Georgia. She deliberately chose Midtown, an area that was progressive, liberal. That has lots of liberal neighborhoods, and it's known for its very vibrant arts scene and its welcoming embrace of the LGBTQ community.
Okay.
Not long after she moved to Atlanta, she adopted a blonde pit bull named Tori.
Yeah.
Scotty is also a rescue.
Yep.
One of Katie's first jobs in Atlanta was a bar manager at a place called Whole World Improv Theater. She's actually a musician, and she spent her free time writing songs, Rob, playing guitar, Rob, in local bands, Rob.
Well, a long time ago.
No, you play in the Lexington Lab Band now.
That's true.
She was very good at voicing her political views through her music. And to make ends meet, she also worked as a bartender for several years at Campagnolo. It's a Midtown restaurant just down the street from the apartment that she will eventually share with her partner.
Okay.
Campagnolo sat at the intersection of 10th Street and Piedmont Avenue, where rainbow-painted crosswalks will signify the area's deep ties to the LGBTQ community, a place the Washington Post described as a haven. The iconic rainbow crosswalk was originally painted in 2015 for the Atlanta Pride Week, or month, I should say, and became permanent in 2017 as a tribute to the LGBTQ plus community. It's located at one of the most recognizable and symbolic intersections in the city, and it's just steps away from many friendly bars and restaurants and Piedmont Park.
Okay.
At work, Katie was known for her kindness and friendly demeanor. The regulars described her as sweet and a little geeky, very much like Rob.
Uh-huh. I can identify.
Not the stereotypical bartender who threw back shots with her friends or patrons or flirted for tips. Instead, Katie spent her quiet moments collecting books, writing poetry, and composing songs. Now, I'm into the collecting books part and probably the flirting for tips. That would have been me at 26. Katie met her partner, Emma Clark, in 2014. Emma was 10 years younger, but their age gap didn't matter. The two were in love and inseparable. In 2018, Emma and Katie gave Tori a sibling, Bowie, another pit bull, another pitty. And by 2021, Katie and Emma were working hard to save for a down payment on their very first home together. For now, they lived in Midtown Atlanta, a generally safe upper-middle-class neighborhood filled with restaurants, bars, and a thriving music scene that really suited Katie. And at home, they shared their life with their two dogs, Tori, who's now 14 years old, and Bowie, who is now 3. And very energetic. And if you've ever been around a pit bull, they can be very energetic. They get such a bad rap. We've known a couple, our good friends, Robin and Steve, have had a couple of pit bulls, a couple of pitties. Sweetest dogs ever.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Kurt loved Rob.
I loved Kurt. He was a great dog.
Kurt was a great, great dog.
Yeah.
On Tuesday, July 27th, Katie had the night off. She and Emma had dinner together with the dogs before Emma headed to work at Henry's Midtown Tavern on 10th Street, where she was also a bartender and a server. So they're both bartenders and servers, but at different establishments that are very close together because they would often ride their bikes and they would often just walk to work. how amazing is that? That's like living in New York, you know, living in Midtown Atlanta, just being able to ride your bike I don't know if I'd ride my bike in New York City, but, you know, there are tons of people who do. You can even rent a bike on the side of the street and ride, but I don't know how safe I feel like it is.
The house I had in Charlotte was kind of like that. I mean, I could literally just walk over to restaurants.
Your favorite Thai restaurant, you mean?
Yes, Thai Taste. It was 2 blocks away. Oh, man.
When we first started dating, it was one of the first places he took me was to Thai Taste.
Yeah.
And he walked in there like, Rob, come on in, take a seat.
They were great. They were great. And we still go there every time we go back to Charlotte. We do. But this time they're like, who's the blonde? Rob, who's the blonde? We don't know her.
That was 18 years ago, 17 years ago, something like that. See, it's been so long, I can't even count, honey.
Time flies when you're having fun.
There you go. And Thai.
Yes.
But that night, after Emma leaves, Bowie, the 3-year-old pit bull, had not been out for his walk yet. So after Emma left, Katie decided to take him to the park. And this is a routine late night walk for them. Scotty also has his routines.
Oh, my gosh.
And where he likes to walk in our neighborhood. We don't go to the park.
Yeah.
But he definitely, and there's a park in our neighborhood, but he has the short walk, the long walk, and then
the fancy walk.
And then the fancy walk.
We have an executive section in our neighborhood, and every once in a while he wants to go up there and see how the other half lives.
Yeah, he wants to go see all the big houses. But Katie felt safe in their neighborhood, and that's the point I'm trying to make. Everybody really felt safe in this neighborhood. And both she and Emma worked at these bars that are nearby, that are within walking distance. And this park is very close to their apartment. And it was perfect for Bowie. And we're talking about Piedmont Park.
Okay.
And these two had evening work schedules. So Bowie was used to a later walk time. So if you have a dog, you know, when it gets close to when they're used to getting walked, they know it's walk time. They'll get their leash. They'll come get you.
Listen, I'll be down here in my studio, and every day at 3 or 3:30, somewhere in between there, Scotty comes down. He just sits and looks at me like, you ready?
Come on, dude.
Let's do it.
Let's go. It's time for a walk.
Oh, man.
Now, Bowie was an easy walker. He enjoyed his walk. He didn't bark at other dogs or people or kids on bicycles or men on motorcycles. I'm looking at you, Scotty. He barks at anything that's got wheels.
Yeah.
It was after 10 p.m. when Katie and Bowie headed out, but the streets were not dark because Midtown is very well lit by traffic and street lights and open businesses. And Katie and Bowie had walked this route countless times, and Katie felt confident she was safe. Why wouldn't she?
Sure.
You know, we walk in our neighborhood and think that we're absolutely safe.
Sure.
At 11:35 p.m., Katie and Bowie stopped by Emma's work to say hi. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but of all of the pictures I've seen and all of the reports, most of these businesses, it is Atlanta, it is July, it's warm out. They'll have tables out on the street. So it's sort of an inside, outside sort of thing, if you know what I'm trying to explain.
Sure.
But Katie and Bowie stopped by Emma's work to say hello. And multiple witnesses will say they saw them that night. Katie asked Emma when she thought she'd be home, knowing bar shifts could end late or right at closing. So if you've ever worked at a restaurant, you know sometimes you're able to close easily and right on time, and sometimes you can't get people out.
Yeah. And
it takes a little bit longer to clean up after everybody's gone. And before leaving, Katie told her, quote, "I'll see you when you get home," end quote. Now, there are a couple of versions of what Katie said to Emma that night. One version is very straightforward. Katie told Emma, "I'll see you at home." The other version, according to some witnesses, is that Katie mentioned that she and Bowie would come back to the bar later, or at least she would return so that they could walk home together. Like maybe she would take Bowie back to their apartment and then come back to get Emma, and the two of them would go home together.
All right.
Now, what we do know for certain is that Emma had ridden her bike to work that night, as she usually did, and it's possible they planned to walk home together after her shift. According to Emma, quote, she came by with the dog. She comes to say hi, just to check up on me, see how long I was going to be at work. I said, I love you, be safe, and see you later, end quote. Now, regardless, this will be the last time Emma ever sees Katie alive.
It's sad.
After leaving Emma's bar, Katie walked towards Piedmont Park, a place that she and Bowie frequented often. At 12:09 a.m., just after midnight, surveillance cameras capture Katie and Bowie crossing the iconic Rainbow Crosswalk at 10th Street and Piedmont Avenue, heading toward the park. Katie is wearing a black t-shirt, black pants, and tennis shoes. She has her AirPods in her ears. Now, no one knows exactly how the attack unfolded. It's unclear whether the killer went after Bowie first or attacked Katie and Bowie tried to protect her. But what we do know is that Bowie came into contact with the killer.
Oh, really?
Because Bowie was stabbed. Police have never released specific details about the nature or number of Bowie's wounds, but we know that Bowie suffered fatal stab wounds and his death was the result of sharp force injuries inflicted with a straight-edge weapon, so a knife.
There's a special place in hell for anyone that tortures an animal, especially a dog.
There's a special place in hell for this killer, I promise you.
Yeah.
About 100 feet away from where Bowie lay, the killer attacked Katie. First, they beat her in the head and neck, then stabbed her more than 50 times.
Man.
Katie also died from sharp force injuries, but to her face, neck, and torso. But those clinical words don't come close to describing the brutality of what was actually done to her.
Wow.
And this description is graphic, so I want to warn you now, and this is from the autopsy of Katie. She had at least 15 slicing wounds running from her forehead down to her chin, incised cuts that flayed her skin open in an X pattern.
Oh, wow.
Her nose was nearly severed, both eyelids were sliced through, and both lips were cut clean through to the underlying tissue.
Wow.
Across her neck was a gaping wound measuring 9¼ inches by 5½ inches with overlapping slashes that severed both carotid arteries. The cuts were so deep they sliced through muscle down to her vertebrae.
Ugh.
Her heart was still beating as these wounds were inflicted.
Man.
Katie also had sharp force injuries to both breasts and multiple stab wounds to her upper and lower back, some so deep they punctured her aorta, left lung, and liver.
Ugh.
The killer was using a very sharp knife and driving it in with savage force.
Man.
She had at least 14 stab wounds across her lower back. Katie had a tattoo in that area, and it was mutilated. And some have speculated it was a pride tattoo and the killer deliberately tried to destroy it. But officially, Atlanta police and the FBI have never disclosed what the tattoo depicted. Her clothing showed that she was stabbed through her clothes. Cuts in her shirt matched the wounds on her body. But at some point during the attack, the killer lifted her shirt and carved 3 letters into her lower chest and stomach. F-A-T. Now, Katie was 5'7" and weighed 150 pounds. She was not fat. The F and A were carved on the right side of her torso, the T on the left, with the T being the deepest cut of all. Each letter was several inches tall. The autopsy described these as deliberate carvings, with the killer standing over her as they etched the letters into her flesh.
Wow.
There was no sign of sexual assault, but her pants and underwear had been pulled down to her knees. Katie also had multiple defensive wounds on her hands, fighting her attacker until the very end. The stab wounds covered both the front and back of her body, showing that the killer actually turned her over to continue the attack. Jeez. So it wasn't enough just to do it on the front, stand over her and carve FAT into her body, but also turn her over to stab her more.
I know you're probably going to get to this, but do they have any guess what FAT was? Was it somebody's initials or?
Well, I will say this. The police are very closed-lipped because this is an ongoing investigation that is 4 years old. So they are still working this, and a lot is going on right now. So they may possibly think that it's initials, or they may just possibly think that it means fat.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, she's thin and young and...
she is.
Yeah, so... I wouldn't accept the fact that fat meant she was fat. It's like it's got to be an anagram for something else.
Maybe. I think that's a really smart angle to think of it. Maybe they are the initials. Maybe.
I'm smart.
What if those are the initials of the killer?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. At around 12:20 a.m., Emma rode her bicycle home from work. When she arrived after 12:30, Katie and Bowie weren't there. Only their older dog, Tori.
Right.
Emma immediately knew something was wrong. Their walk had gone on for far too long. Remember, they started out around 10 p.m. Now, Scotty can't take a walk that long, but our son has, a bigger dog, and he'll walk for an hour and a half. He would love that and go to the park and play and then come home and crash.
If it's over 75 degrees, Scotty has to lay down about every 30 yards.
He's like his mama. He likes that California weather, not the heat and humidity in the summer.
Oh, man.
But Emma would later say in an interview that if she ever got home and Katie wasn't there, she would just call her, and Katie would always answer. But this time when Emma called, Katie didn't pick up the phone. So Emma called again and again and again. Still nothing. So Emma starts texting. No reply. And when Katie didn't call or text back, Emma opened the Find My iPhone app to see where she was. The app showed that Katie's phone was just inside the entrance to Piedmont Park, just a short distance from their home. But it wasn't moving, meaning Katie wasn't walking.
Right.
Emma decided to head to the park herself. Maybe Katie had dropped her phone, and it's dark in there, and she couldn't find it. But Emma was the one in the dark about what was going on. She got on her bike. She rode to the 10th Street entrance of Piedmont Park. It's now 12:57 a.m. on July 28th. When she arrives, as she approaches the entrance to the park, she can see something lying on the path just inside the gate. And as she gets closer, she realizes it's Bowie.
No.
He was about 50 feet from the entrance, and he's lying still. So Emma dropped her bike. She runs to him, hoping that he's still alive. But deep down, she knew that something was really, really wrong.
Sure.
So she's overcome by shock and grief. She doesn't notice anything else at first. I mean, she's just found her dog.
Right.
So I get this. Quote, "The first thing I saw was Bowie. He was visible from the gate, maybe 50 feet inside," end quote. And at first she thought Bowie might have been hit by a car. Sometimes vehicles use this exact path in the park. But then the dread sort of set in, because if Bowie's here, where is Katie?
Right.
Emma started calling out for her, looking around desperately. She checked the app again, and she followed the blue dot on her phone. And that's when she found Katie lying on the ground about 100 feet away from Bowie's body to the right. Emma rushes to her. She finds Katie covered in blood, stabbed, and mutilated beyond recognition. Emma felt for a pulse, but she already knew that Katie, the love of her life, was gone.
Man.
Quote, "It was dark. I didn't know what was going on. I was terrified and shocked," end quote. Of course she was.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this world more horrifying than finding the person you love dead.
Man.
So Emma is panicked. She didn't know if the killer was still nearby, if she was going to be the next victim, or what. So she ran for her life. And at 1:10 a.m., she called 911. Now, this 911 call has become a point of debate for many, with many people dissecting every word she said, and I will post the call in the In-Laws and Outlaws. But I'm going to just sort of go over it for you.
Okay.
Emma told the dispatcher, quote, "I'm at the entrance to Piedmont Park. I was just searching for my girlfriend because I couldn't find her. She's dead. She's here at Piedmont Park. Please help," end quote.
Okay.
The dispatcher asks her to confirm what she's heard. Quote, "You said somebody's dead at Piedmont Park," end quote. And Emma cries out, "Oh my God, yes, help. Please send help. Oh my God," end quote. Okay. The dispatcher asks, "Where is she at the park?" And at this point, Emma is breathing heavily and she says, quote, "She is right near the entrance. Like, I don't know how to explain it," end quote. Now, some people have speculated that Emma was out of breath because she had run out of the park to make the call, but it's also pretty apparent that she's in shock. She just found her partner and her dog brutally murdered.
Sure.
Her adrenaline's pumping. Her world is shattered. I am taking up for Emma right now, okay?
Yeah, I don't even know why this is even in question.
Well, if you go to some of the Reddit threads, you'll see why people have like their own little theories about this, okay?
Okay, whatever.
During the call, a man's voice can be heard yelling in the background, and reports say he shouted, and I will post this in the In-Laws and Outlaws as well because it's sort of muffled, but the reports say he shouted, quote, "What the f***," end quote. Maybe after seeing Katie or Bowie or both. Emma responds saying something like, quote, "Did you just see that?" end quote. And the man replies, "Yes." Emma then says, "That's my girlfriend," end quote. She tells the dispatcher again, quote, "Like she's dead, end quote. And there are people who don't like the tone of Emma's voice.
Oh, geez.
The tone she's using to this guy who's also seen Katie's body or the dog, which to me, come on. Yeah. There's no good way or correct way to react in a situation like that.
Yeah.
But people like to make assumptions based on how a person reacts to a violent crime or death. Now, the dispatcher tells her that help is on the way. You can hear the operator alerting emergency services in between talking to Emma. But Emma isn't on the line long enough to tell the dispatcher exactly which entrance of the park where Katie's body is located. And now we know that shortly after Emma runs away from the scene and calls 911, someone else finds Katie's body. This man, that's the man who can be heard in the background of this 911 call.
Right.
And he comes out of the entrance of the same park that Emma had run out of. And to this day, police have never said that they know who this man was. So he says this. She says, "That's my girlfriend." He sees, it's obvious that she's dead.
Right.
It's obvious that she's dead.
Sure.
But who was this guy?
Right.
And why was he in the park that night? And how do we know he wasn't the killer himself, watching Emma discover Katie's body before acting like he stumbled onto the scene too, only to vanish into thin air?
Right.
Because the police do not know who he is. But here's the thing. Based on the brutal condition of Katie's body, whoever killed her would have been covered in her blood.
Right.
And that particular entrance was really well lit. And I feel like someone would have seen that he was covered in blood as he's like leaving.
Sure.
But it is sort of late at night. But the last evidence of Katie alive is the CCTV of her crossing the rainbow crosswalk to go into the park. But still, why run? The park was technically closed at that hour. The bathrooms inside the park were locked because sometimes like homeless people apparently would use the bathrooms there. But those are locked. And while the gates were usually locked overnight, they were open that night. And I want to talk to you about the CCTV inside the park. Well, that's a problem.
What?
Because although at the time there were physical cameras mounted, they were not working.
Why?
They weren't working. It was like a software thing.
Ugh.
It was an older system. So that's why you can see her from the street outside, crossing the street, getting ready to go into the park. But once she's killed right inside the park, right inside the park. And no CCTV, no closed circuit TV.
Bad timing.
People cut through Piedmont Park all the time, apparently. So maybe this guy was just passing through. Maybe he bolted because he didn't want to get tangled up in a murder investigation as an innocent bystander. But then again, why draw attention to the murder if you are the killer? So there's so many questions here, so many questions. And speaking of questions, the police had plenty for Emma when they arrived. What time did you leave work? What time did you get to the park? Did you touch Katie? Did you touch the dog, Bowie? All standard procedure to establish her whereabouts and confirm her alibi.
Right.
But this wasn't just a mugging or a stabbing. This was something far more horrific. And the cops at the scene were really shaken. And given the brutality of what they found, I mean, it's pretty easy to see why. And part of the Reddit stuff is that the police were sort of shaken to their core, and they didn't feel like Emma had that same sort of shock or visceral response to finding her lover's body.
Here's the thing. You never know how you're going to react when you're faced with trauma like that.
Exactly. That's why I said that I am Team Emma. I'm just telling you now, I'm Team Emma.
It's just, anybody that's questioning her, whatever, it's just silly.
I agree. Katie's autopsy was performed by Dr. Karen Sullivan on Friday, July 30th, 2021. When her body was brought in, she still had one AirPod in her right ear, and she still had her socks and shoes on. Now, many people believe there had to be more than one killer. Bowie was a 50-pound pit bull. He was sweet, but he was protective.
Right.
And Katie was clearly ambushed. She was still listening to her music that she had one AirPod still in her ear. She's completely unaware when she steps into the park. And she's hit from behind first. Remember, she's bludgeoned first.
Right.
So did Katie's killer intend to rape her but ran out of time? Because what the killer did to her body took a lot of time. All the stabbing, the carving of the letters into her torso. So how long was the killer there with her? Because it was a lot of work, and she is right inside the park.
Yeah. I'm just surprised that no one heard the attack. I mean, she had to have screamed or something.
Well, and there are people who have gone into Piedmont Park at exactly this time, and they can actually hear, in July, they've recreated the exact, night, and they can hear people outside at the bars across the street. I mean, that's how close it is.
Wow.
Most profilers believe the killer was male simply due to the sheer strength needed to inflict such devastating injuries on both Katie and the dog Bowie. There's also a report suggesting Katie may have been dragged to where her body was found, about 100 feet away from the entrance near a tree. So she was attacked with Bowie. Bowie attacks the killer. They kill Bowie, then bludgeon her and drag her away. And police have never released exact details about the weapon used. That's why I can only say it was like a sharp, blade.
Right.
Also, Katie was not robbed. Emma later told the Washington Post that robbery clearly wasn't the motive. Her phone was still with her, which is how Emma tracked her down in the first place. And she had cash on her, and nothing was taken.
Wow.
So it's not a robbery. It's not a sexual assault. But it was brutal, and whoever did this seemed to know exactly what they wanted to do when it came to carving up Katie's body. The way her body was mutilated, especially her tattoo, that's not something you decide to do like on a whim.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of violence you see from a serial killer. And yet, there's never been another attack in Atlanta like it. And this killer was bold because Katie's body wasn't hidden. It was right inside the park and visible from the road if anyone had just bothered to look.
Right.
Now, because Katie's murder remains unsolved, police have held back many, many details. So we don't know if police have tried to see, did she go anywhere else before she went into the park, like tracking her phone? Did Katie try to run and was chased down near where Bowie was found? So were they at the other end of the park and coming back out again? The murder itself was incredibly risky. An open area of the park. There's no attempt to conceal the crime. Maybe the killer liked that kind of risk. I mean, experts say the attack could have lasted as little as 3 minutes or as long as 10 minutes. 10 minutes sort of out in the open, just mutilating her body.
Yeah, you'd think that it's risky, is what you're saying.
Very risky.
Yeah, I mean, somebody could be walking by.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is Atlanta. It's in a prominent section. There's people out at bars. I mean, wow.
I mean, if you can hear the people at the bars at night, at that same time.
Yeah.
Atlanta police knew immediately this was beyond their scope alone, and they called in the FBI. Months after Katie's murder, police held a press conference, and that's when they revealed that Bowie had also been stabbed. And an autopsy, technically called a necropsy since he's an animal, was performed. But police have never released those findings, again, because it's an ongoing investigation. Bowie's body was sent to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation for evidence processing, and everybody wants to know what was discovered during this necropsy or autopsy of Bowie, because most people, myself included, believe Bowie tried to defend Katie. Emma told the Washington Post, quote, "There is no doubt in my mind that Bowie tried to defend her. He was about 50 pounds. He had a huge mouth, and he was a fast dog. I'm sure he did his best," end quote. And that quote broke my heart.
Yeah.
But it also raises a chilling question. Why would an attacker target a woman walking a 50-pound pit bull?
Yeah.
Now, many criminologists say the kind of mutilation Katie suffered often happens when a victim doesn't die immediately and the killer goes into overkill, stabbing over and over again while the victim is still alive. And there are a lot of people who believe Katie was targeted and stalked, that her killer knew her routine. And while stabbing and dismemberments happen, it's rare for a murderer to carve hate words into their victim's body. That word fat carved into her torso.
Yeah.
Combined with her pants pulled down but no sign of sexual assault, it kind of feels deliberate, kind of like a final act to maybe humiliate her. I don't think carving up Katie's body was a choice made in the heat of the moment. I think her killer knew what he wanted to do, and I'm using the pronoun he loosely because it could have been a woman.
Right.
But it was a lot of overkill for a woman. Right. Most believe the killer was male.
Right.
Statistically, women rarely commit such acts of extreme violence. Of course, it's not out of the question. But another thing people in true crime circles often discuss about the case, and let me be clear, there's a lot we don't know that the police and the FBI do know that aren't making public, is whether Bowie's leash was still attached when they found him. Rumors swirl that the killer may have taken a token from the scene. But that's all speculation. So please don't flood my inbox with outrage after this episode, please.
Yeah.
People also speculate about who could commit such a heinous crime. Some say it was maybe a mentally ill homeless person, but psychologists have pointed out that individuals in psychotic breaks are far more likely to harm themselves than someone else. And besides, this murder feels personal, not just the 50 stab wounds, but the deliberate mutilation of her tattoo, the carving of the word fat or the initials FAT into her torso.
Right.
The 4th anniversary of Katie's murder was just 2 days ago on July 28th, and still Atlanta police haven't released the name of a single suspect. Some hold to that mentally ill attacker theory, but I believe it was a hate crime, maybe someone from Katie or Emma's past, or someone in their community, an acquaintance from the bar where Katie worked, maybe a man who made a pass at her, and then when she rejected him, his rage sort of turned deadly. For the record, I don't think it was Emma, not for a second, and there have been those who have floated that theory because, it's extreme overkill, what was done to her. It was very personal. It was possibly emotionally driven, like betrayal, which always points to the person's partner or lover. There are folks who've pointed out that Emma arrived at the crime scene around 1:10 a.m. and that her quick arrival and the fact that she'd been working very close to the entrance of Piedmont Park that night could suggest that because she knew Katie was going there, she had opportunity if, and that's a big fat if, she had the motive.
Yeah.
And there are others who didn't like Emma's 911 call again or her public interviews after. Again, how are you supposed to act, people?
Yeah.
Those who seem to drive the conjecture of Emma's involvement are quick to point out that she has not been formally cleared by the police. But the flip side of that from Emma's supporters is that she's never been accused either.
Yeah.
She's never been named as a suspect. And again, this is all online speculation. But whoever did this had a plan. Maybe they knew the cameras in the park were down. Again, no similar murders have happened since, even though the brutality is something like a serial killer. There hasn't been another killing in Piedmont Park or another attack like this anywhere in Atlanta. But the big question on everyone's mind, and I can't believe you haven't brought this up yet, because it's a big question in my mind too.
Yeah.
Is if Bowie defended Katie, which we know
DNA.
he did.
I was going to ask that.
Did he bite the killer, and did the killer leave any DNA behind inside Bowie's mouth?
Right.
Or are there fibers from the killer's clothes in his mouth or teeth? There could be blood evidence inside Bowie's mouth. These are the details everyone is desperate to know. But for now, police aren't saying what they have found. Atlanta Deputy Chief Charles Hampton Jr. has said this case relies heavily on biological and technological evidence, both of which take time. Well, it's been 4 years. Some factors are simply out of their control. They're still waiting for certain results, maybe like data from phone carriers. That means they're like pulling a quote, data dump of all phones used in that area during the critical hour,
right,
and feeding that into specialized software to map out who was where, which is pretty interesting. So if you didn't know that, if you're carrying a phone, your carrier will tell the police.
Yeah.
You know, if they get a warrant for it, they're going to know that you're nearby.
Right.
But as we all know, time keeps passing. 4 years have already slipped away. On June 16th, 2025, just a month ago, the Atlanta Police Department gave an update on Katie's case. They said the investigation remains active and ongoing with a strong focus on DNA evidence. But they are still asking for the public's help. So if you saw anyone with unexplained injuries, if someone you know suddenly showed an intense obsession with this case in the media, if they changed their appearance, dyed their hair, shaved their beard, or suddenly grew a beard, if they were absent from school or work around the time of the murder, which is July 28th, 2021, police want you to come forward. Contact the Atlanta Police Department. They've made it clear that no tip is too small and nothing will go uninvestigated. And you can submit these tips anonymously by calling 404-577-8477. That's 404-577-TIPS.
Okay.
You can submit a tip online at crimestoppersatlanta.com, or you can text your tip to crimes at 274637 using the code CSGA at the beginning of your tip. There is a $100,000 reward for any tip that leads to an arrest and indictment into Katie's murder case, and you do not need to reveal your identity to be eligible for the reward. And if you're wondering how that might work, after you submit your tip, you receive a tip ID number or a tip code. And this is your only way to check on the status of your tip. And without your tip code, you cannot collect your reward. But if your tip is the one, the big one, you receive instructions on how to collect your money, like going to a specific bank or a payment location where you present your tip ID. But you are never asked to show your ID or appear in court or reveal your identity. I want to end by mentioning that in the dog park where Katie and Bowie spent so many hours, there's now a bench dedicated to their memory, a quiet place for those who loved them can go and sit and reflect and remember. And as for Emma, she's trying to get on with her life. But that is the unsolved case of Katie Janness and Bowie, and that's all I have to say about that. For nearly 7 years, Jane Doe has lived in the shadows, her past buried deep beneath layers of secrecy and silence. After completing more than was asked of her in her last assignment for the enigmatic Kywolf project, Jane Doe vanished without a trace, leaving behind a trail of dead bodies and unanswered questions. But now, as the specter of her past returns with a vengeance, Jane finds herself thrust back into a world she thought she'd left behind forever. When her former sins come knocking on her door, Jane is faced with an impossible choice: continue to hide in the shadows, or once again take up arms against the forces that threaten to tear apart the fabric of society. With enemies lurking around every corner and allies who may not be what they seem, Jane must rely on her wits, training, and her unyielding determination to survive. And while trust is a luxury she cannot afford, Jane must confront the truth about herself and her past. As the clock ticks, she realizes that the line between family, friend, and foe are razor thin, and in the end, the only person she can rely on is herself. Jane Doe 4 Charlotte is available September 24th, 2024. No name, no regrets, no mercy.
All right. This really isn't a take on anything, but a question that I have. I think the first thing that I would have done was to ask who was in charge of the software, the technical aspect of what's going on for cameras around the city. Because there's got to be, obviously there's a department for all that. But I would want to know who to question in there, because the brazenness, I guess, you would say, of this murder.
For sure.
You would think that someone that was doing that would know that there's cameras in the park, but if they knew that the cameras weren't working.
Right.
So I would go to the source.
And I'm sure they have. Remember, the FBI have been, involved in this.
Yeah.
My whole thing is, I think Bowie holds the key to everything. I think the dog holds the key to everything. It's always the dog.
And we have Scotty.
And I have Scotty with me right now. So it's the dog,
The dog's going to be the hero.
The dog will end up being the hero.
Yeah.
And I realize, it's an unsolved case, and there's really not a whole lot of bright moments. We usually try to bring a little levity to some of these cases,
right,
when it comes to the criminal. But I mean, there's none to be had here. But I didn't want Katie's name to just sort of fade away.
I agree.
And the police are still actively asking for help. And so this was the one thing that we could do for her.
Good. Well, let's go to some really stupid crimes that don't need any help at all. With a little bless your heart.
Well, bless your heart.
All right, number one, I'm calling Just Clowning Around.
Just clowning around.
A Massachusetts judge has denied a man's request to juggle during his trial to show jurors he was just clowning around when he allegedly tried to rob a convenience store.
Oh, my gosh.
The keystone to his defense is he's literally a clown. Orlando Melendez wrote of himself in his petition per the Springfield Republican, and denied, wrote a Springfield judge on Thursday in rejecting Melendez's request. Melendez...
If I was the judge, I'd be like, come on in, start juggling.
Yeah. Melendez has not pleaded guilty to charges. He used a toy gun to try to rob a convenience store in December, reports the AP. This is the part I love. The 20-year-old man who is representing himself,
of course he is,
asked that he be allowed to juggle 3 wads of paper for 20 seconds to show jurors that he allegedly attempted robbery was a misunderstanding.
wads of paper.
Yeah.
Bring in some bowling balls.
No, bring in some chainsaws.
Or something flaming if you really want to show us that you're a juggler.
Well, obviously it didn't work. Jeez. All right, number 2, Not So Merry Christmas.
Not So Merry Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Jesus Saves probably doesn't refer to getting someone off the hook for a crime, as one suspected drunk driver recently found out in the UK. A man slammed his Mini Cooper into a metal barrier in Yorkshire on Saturday, then fled the scene seeking sanctuary from law enforcement in a nativity scene about 220 yards away, reports The Telegraph. The North Yorkshire police posted a pic of the car and decimated barrier on Twitter and noted the suspect had been located and arrested. Social media had a bit of fun with the story, with commentators making appropriate holiday puns rounded up by The Telegraph. One was, "God arrest ye, merry gentlemen."
That's good.
Reads one post, while another pipes in, "Obviously not one of the wise men."
I was actually wondering if they found him in the nativity. Was he Mary? Was he Joseph?
I don't know.
Obviously not one of the wise men.
Yeah. All right. Number 3, and finally.
Finally.
Is there anything else I can do for you?
Okay.
A New Mexico man is facing charges after police say he walked into an unlocked home, stole car keys, and stunned a resident who found him baking a potato and raking leaves. Patrick Lynn Waits, 45, was arrested early Tuesday following a bizarre chain of events that confused residents of a Hobbs home, the Hobbs News Sun reports.
Okay.
A female resident awoke to noise in her kitchen and found Waits allegedly wiping down a countertop and baking a potato in her microwave oven, police said.
Baking a potato.
Yeah, I love potatoes, so I can't condemn him for that. She asked him what he was doing in there, and he said, "Well, I'm making a potato," according to police report. When told to leave, a criminal complaint says Waits walked outside and left his potato in the microwave. The report then said Waits began to rake leaves in the front yard. The female residents convinced Waits to stay by, saying she wanted to pay him for his services, a ploy to get Waits to stay long enough for authorities to arrive, police said. Waits was found stumbling while walking, and he slurred when he talked, officials said. Waits was arrested on burglary and unlawful entry charges. He also faces several felony warrants for failure to appear in court. It was not known if Waits had an attorney. I don't know why that would even be a question.
That was pretty smart, though, to say, hey, stay because I want to pay you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you baking a potato and raking my leaves. Let me pay you.
You would have said, why did you call? Let him rake the leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
Please let him rake the leaves of our pin oaks that are falling all year long.
God. Yeah, let him finish and then we'll arrest him.
Well, if you have a bless your heart or you know somebody's heart who needs blessing, all you have to do is go to hitchtahomicide.com. While you're there, there's a pull-down menu, and you can also suggest a case or tell us about your brush with true crime.
Yes.
Right, Scotty?
Yep.
That's my amazing husband out there.
And that's my beautiful bride in the booth and my beautiful dog.
Join us next time on Hitch to Homicide.
Bye, y'all.